context is a very straightforward lesson. Lots of text, two sides of it, loads of it. And the whole point of the lesson was to investigate the relationship between China and the USSR over 20 years, between 49 to 69. It's part of our Cold War course. And this is a relationship that has certain features in it that starts off quite well, but then completely goes to pot. And the whole lesson was looking at key events that tracked the trajectory of this relationship. And they did some work on a big graph that they did in groups, and the top was happy USA, USSR and China, and sad USSR and China. And so between 1949 to 1969, we charted the relationship between the two. And it kind of starts off roughly, goes up, gets quite good, all starts to have problems, starts to have big problems, massive problems, and then dies, right? And they start off as pals and they become massive enemies. And that's the trajectory of this relationship. So the kids have studied, the learners have studied lots of these events, and they've made their little evaluation, they've put it all together. And that was all well and good. But what I wanted them to really have was an understanding of an overview, an overarching, clear understanding of the shape of this relationship between the two superpowers. And it occurred to me that this relationship between China and the USSR is somewhat of a, could be understood in the context of a romantic love affair between an experienced USSR and a young and eager to learn China. So for the last 15 minutes of the lessons, I asked the students, once they study all the detail of various wars and various interactions, political issues, nationalistic issues, except ideological issues, I wanted them to write their own romantic love story version of this Sino-Soviet relationship. Of course, they'd have to give the Soviet Union a name, maybe even an age, a gender. They would have to give China a name, age, and gender. And these would represent the starting points of their relationship. Of course, their relationship goes through various events. And you can see those on their chart where they go up and down, etc., etc. And they would have to find some sort of equivalence within their romantic love story between the two. Now, this, of course, is silly. What silly stories. It's cheeky. It could be risque. Well, they won't make it risque, don't worry about that. And in that sense, it's a little facile. But what it ended up doing is giving these students, although by mucking around, a really clear understanding of the shape of this relationship between the two superpowers. They may have called them Deborah and Barry. They may have called them, I think one class came with actually a same-sex relationship, and they were actually potters. And they went through the glazing and the firing process, and he taught him how to glaze and fire. And why they came up with this, I'll never know. But they did, and it became more bizarre and ridiculous as it went on. But because they're having to make equivalences, silly ones, with the real events to replicate them, of course it's not accurate what they're doing, but they are getting a good general understanding of the shape of that relationship over 20 years. So from detail, analysis and evaluation of detail, they go into an overarching overview, which gets stuck in their minds whether they've got a deep understanding of the events or not. But they come away understanding, having studied those overview events in a much more deeper way. And although in a facile, silly way, there's actually some really deep understanding that happens to make those equivalences that they go through. And that it really helps them out with that overview. So silly stories.